The LUMIX G9 Mark II has an incredible selection of burst modes and pre-burst modes for any occasion that life throws at you. With the electronic shutter, the G9 Mark II can shoot up to 60 frames per second, still using continuous autofocus. And using the mechanical shutter, we have up to 10 frames per second. You can also shoot 75 frames per second if you use fixed autofocus or manual focus. And now you can shoot either 20 frames or 60 frames per second using the pre-burst mode and save either 0.5, 1 second or 1.5 seconds of action prior to releasing the shutter. When you combine these modes with the fantastic phase detect autofocus, the new subject tracking modes, and the incredibly stable IBIS, we get an accurate, user-friendly camera that'll let you get the photo you want just about every time, even in challenging situations. I think it's a good idea to choose the correct burst mode for the subject you're capturing. For example, the 60 frames per second mode is ideal for very fast-moving subjects like birds. You can of course use this mode for larger subjects, but even the 10 frames per second mode is brilliant for mid-sized subjects like dogs. The G9 Mark II gives you loads of flexibility, so you can choose the right mode for the right moment. As you can see in these burst shots, the autofocus does a brilliant job of tracking the subject, so you can choose any frame you like to get that perfect shot. But sometimes, especially when you're shooting very unpredictable subjects like birds, you can quickly fill up a memory card when you try to anticipate the movement. This is where the pre-burst modes come in handy. You can choose either 20 frames per second or 60 frames per second for the pre-burst modes, and both modes use electronic shutter, and you do have access to continuous autofocus. Then in the menu, you need to choose either 0.5, 1 second or 1.5 seconds of collected images. It's thought that it takes people on average 0.4 seconds to react to a fast-moving subject, so 0.5 seconds gives you a little bit of a buffer. The 1 second option is great for people with slightly slower reflexes, or if you just want a little bit of extra peace of mind. And the 1.5 second mode can allow you to capture a different composition before the action begins. For example, a bird on the branch before they begin their flight. The best choice can vary from situation to situation, but I think the 1 second mode is a good sweet spot to begin with. You capture plenty of the action, but it also keeps your raw files to a minimum. Each time you use this mode in 60 frames a second, you'll capture 60 photos. And if you're shooting in 20 frames a second, you'll capture 20 photos. This doesn't take very long at all for the camera to write those files to the card, so you're not waiting for a long time before you can use the mode again. Conversely, if you weren't using pre-burst mode and you shot 60 frames a second for just 3 seconds, that would mean the camera would need to save 180 raw files to the cards, which can take a while, and it's also a heck of a lot of footage to comb through afterwards. Plus, the pre-burst mode means you're more likely to capture the action because it's already happened once you've pressed the shutter. Let's see the pre-burst mode in action. First, you need to get your settings right, and you can roughly compose your shot. You don't need a tripod for this mode to work, so it can be really flexible. Just remember to keep an eye on your shutter speed. If you're shooting a very small animal, for example, you're going to want a very fast shutter speed. Once you're happy with your settings and you're ready for the action to begin, you can half press your shutter, and then you'll see the word pre pop up on the screen to the left. And then you wait. And then when the action is completed, you press the shutter button. Then the camera will record the last footage straight to the cards. If the action continues after you've pressed the shutter button, just keep holding the shutter button for a little bit longer. You have a 200 frame buffer on the G9 Mark II, which is massive, so you have lots of flexibility when using this mode. So hopefully you can see the value of pre-burst shooting. There's no more spraying and praying. You know the action is being caught, and you know you haven't filled your cards with a ton of junk. The pre-burst mode is such a powerful tool for wildlife and action photographers. Here are some shots taken with this mode.